I have a couple things I want to touch on, man. I don't have any alien stories, but I
That's
do
okay.
have a couple interesting things that I heard recently. Was that I guess when Aleister Crowley, I guess he had contacted a being.
Mm-hmm.
I think his name was Lamb,
Yeah.
and when he had drawn the picture of him, he looked like a gray alien.
Yes, right.
But nobody had ever seen anything like that back then, and people have come to believe that ever since he's created that, he like opened a window and everything we've been seeing him more ever since.
Yep. Yeah, that is very bizarre. I believe they also it was last year, when we as in NASA launched rockets into the solar eclipse, and it happened to be on the anniversary on the day he communicated with that demon alien thing. If it wasn't that demon alien thing, it was another one he was talking to, but it
I
lined
know
up with
there
one of
was
those
another
things.
one that he said that had given him like the book of law.
Right, right, right. It might have been that one. Either way, I think he had a lot to do with a lot of weird things coming into this realm.
Yeah, he was a creepy dude, man. He had
Oh
some
yeah.
weird beliefs, man. I was listening to, I think it was Camp Gagnon.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
I
was
haven't listened
listening
to
to
it.
that, and it's like the things this dude was doing with women and stuff. It was just crazy. Like, and then
Yeah.
they said that Led Zeppelin, that I think Jimmy Page bought his house.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard
And
that.
it was a mansion, and I think it was in Scotland.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a lot of connections to a lot of people in power.
Yeah,
Um,
it's nuts.
it was nuts. And I think his brother was one of the like big time eugenicists as well. Uh,
I think so.
lot of weird stuff in that family. I don't know as much as I should about Crowley. Like every time I talk about him, I'm like, oh, I mean to go down that rabbit hole. But every time he comes up, I'm like, shoot, these people are insane. And real quick, I just want to shout out everyone who is joining us now on Rumble. Thank you for joining us from Timcast. We're glad you're here. We've been talking about UFOs, spheres, things pulsating over California, and now we're talking about Aleister Crowley and talking to a demon. And all the weird things he's done. So yeah, that's a weird one. So you think that him communicating with that entity might have been like the beginning of the end for us?
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. But I've never been. I feel like I've never been cool enough to see any. I'm not cool enough to see a UFO, man. But I grew up in Rhode Island.
Okay, Rhode Island's a weird place though,
Yeah,
just in
so
general.
what I was gonna say is, I come from an Italian Portuguese background, and my family grew up like where I was born in a place called Fox Point,
Hmm.
and it was on the east side of Providence, and we were down the road from John Brown, from like Brown University. RISD
Yeah.
was down the road, and my family was very superstitious or whatever, and
Hmm.
this house we lived in when I was a kid. This is more of like a ghost. I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you, it's pretty cool, but it's nerve wracking in a way. But so when I was a kid, my brother and I are like 3 years apart. My sister, we were all born pretty close, but like always like two years apart.
Hmm.
But my brother was in school at the time, and we used to have this basset hound that used to bark. And there's like crazy tunnels that go directly underneath all over the east side of Providence. They say that John Brown went through there with
Hmm.
with the slaves and stuff.
Whoa.
Like, so one day my mom says like she was to go put my Matchbox cars away, and I go down the hallway, and as I come back, I just happen to go in her room, and when I went in her room, there was this woman in the corner, and she didn't have like an inviting look on her face. I'll never forget it because I never I screamed. So my mom like ran in there, like I fell to the ground.
Hmm.
She was telling me to come to the corner, and that's where the dog used to bark all the time.
Whoa.
My parents, I wouldn't. I was so like deathly afraid to go in that room after. I wouldn't go in that room later on, and my family ended up moving out of that house. It was like I couldn't do anything. I would dream about this woman, and when we had left, we had moved away, and like years later, my father passed away.
Hmm.
My father died when I was 24,
Hmm.
and when my dad was on his way out, we were in the room, and my father, as he was going, he was like started freaking out about this old woman that
Whoa.
was coming to tell him to come with her.
Whoa.
And he started freaking out. And I said, what the, it caught me off guard because I was like, how come nobody ever said anything about that? And then my aunt said that he always saw that when he was younger.
Whoa.
I was like, what the hell? Like, I never really put the two together. And then my friend married this girl. And I'm very skeptical about a lot of things. Like Brandon, dude, I don't believe in anything unless I see it.
Right. Boy.
Yeah.
So, but I ended up like, he was my best friend. So like one night I was there and I come downstairs and it's like 4 a.m, dude. She's like wide awake. And I'm like, she's like, hey Craig, how you doing? And I'm like, I just stood there like she was wide awake, just hanging out. And my boy was on the floor and she's like, I never sleep. They're always talking to me. So I sat down. She was like, we just started talking. And she's like, this woman had followed me around and my whole life. But I've always had these things going on in my life, like weird things. Like I've just seen weird things. And my family being Italian and superstitious, they always said you got to watch out because they'll put the Moloch on you. People put the Moloch on you. It's like a curse.
Right. Yep.
And it's supposedly like an old woman. Whoa. And that's what they said. Like, and this girl had told me she was attached to my father for years.
Whoa.
So when I left, I never believed it, dude. So here's the crazy thing, Shane. I was drinking a lot for years. I was a born Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I was a altar boy at the Portuguese Catholic Church. I knew the masses in Portuguese. I can't tell you any of them anymore. But when my father died, I flipped God off. So when I started coming back to church, dude, and one day I was sitting in church, and the priest had said there was somebody in the crowd that had been afflicted. And as I was sitting in the back pew, because I was way in the back, there was this girl up front, and she kept looking at me, turning around. Like she would turn around in her seat, dude, and look right at me. Whoa. And smile. And I said to the girl that I was with, I was like, what is the chick looking at? And for a second, dude, I saw that woman, that old woman from when I was a kid. And it's crazy enough that was the person that the priest was talking about. What? He was sitting there telling she was possessed, he said.
Whoa. That's wild.
Yeah. Needless to say, I'm a Christian today, man. I've been like 5 years sober now.
Oh, amazing, man. Congrats. That's incredible. That's incredible. That is some story. My goodness. Did the old woman look a certain way? Like, was she from a certain period?
Because I want to say it was like 5. So like my picture of her back then was like she looked like I don't know, how do you say it, like decomposing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, like a rotting specter.
Like she wasn't inviting, dude. It was like she was wearing like the Victorian clothes, but I've had dreams of her too. Like she's come in my dreams at times.
Right. That's scary stuff. That is scary stuff. No. I mean, my wife is Greek, very Greek, and a little Sicilian as well. And a lot of those like those curses and the things they talk about in Greece, very similar to the things they talk about in Italy. And there's people in her family or extended friends and family that they swear up and down that these curses are real and that they've been possessed or attached by something. And there's like old stories that I've heard from her extended family that's still in Greece about like old witches in the village that they will never like let them hold anyone's baby. They try to hold a baby, and it's like that alone is bad luck. Like never let them hold the baby. They're wild. And some of those old ladies actually also talk about letting themselves get bit by scorpions because it helps them live longer. You heard of that?
Yeah, my grandmother used to talk about gypsies.
Yeah.
Like they were right from Italy. Like my aunt Conchetta swore that there was something came out of a lake once to try to get her. It was some creature in a lake in Italy.
That's wild.
It's
creature in a lake.
But what's crazy though is like when we moved, my father worked for Electric Boat. He designed nuclear subs.
Wow.
So he moved us to North Kingstown. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's next to Exeter. They got all sorts of vampires and everything out there.
No.
And my brother lived down the road from the Conjuring house in
Oh, shoot.
Smithfield.
Oh, whoa.
So like I moved out there, dude. I just I never really like believed in any of it. Like we would go to places like that all the time out there, and I never saw anything. I never except for that one specific woman. And I always try to, like that guy said last night, I always try to rationalize it because I'm into horror movies and all that dumb shit, you know?
Yeah, same. I know, but sometimes you just can't shake it off. You're like, I don't know what to do with this thing, but I experienced it. It sounds crazy, but I don't know what to tell you. But Providence has its own like crazy history too, you know, like the pirates and stuff that were there. And I think there's a pirate graveyard somewhere near the center of Providence and stuff that I always thought was weird. I went to a wedding there. A friend had a wedding there, and they were like, "Oh, there's a pirate graveyard here." That's cool. I love
lots of crazy shit out there, dude.
Yeah, yeah. It's a cool area. I really love it up there. I think I have a friend on Twitter up there making pizza. Eric, if he's listening, it might be Eric making pizza in Providence. It's awesome, but I love it up there. But that's a really wild story, man. I appreciate you sharing that.
I appreciate you guys letting me call in, man.
Yeah, man, of course. If you got anything else happening, let us know.
No, so I got to tell you one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
I got something to comment about last night when you were talking about Tom O'Neill's book.
Yeah.
You know, so that guy that you were talking about, the guy that he was in the Air Force.
Jimmy Shaver.
Yeah, I wanted, from what Tom O'Neill was saying was that they brought him back to the base before they released him to the sheriffs.
Right.
He had told, when they released him to the sheriffs, he told the sheriffs that he was abused by his aunt, and the girl reminded him of his aunt.
That's right.
And when they did their investigation, he never was abused by his aunt. And when it come out that Jolly West was working in that base, and he was a part of a program where he thought he was under experiments for his migraines.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And then Jolly West later said that he figured out how to, like, I think, put false memories on people.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
That is terrifying. That's right. Thank you so much for that context. It's important. It's a crazy book, right?
That book had, dude, I was dating a girl when that book came out, and that was like the first time that girl actually like listened to a whole thing like that. Like, it was so fascinating.
Yeah, man, it's so good.
Said you could still go on with it.
Yeah, I know. I want to re-listen to it because I feel like there's things I missed. And I did read. If you like that book, you know, I recommend Poisoner in Chief about MK Ultra. You know, it is written by a New York Times bestseller, so you know it's, you know, you got to keep that in mind. But you can, right? But like it is got really good information in it, and you can look up, you know, go on your own tangents and rabbit holes after reading it. But that's a great book to read after Chaos for sure.
Definitely.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for calling in.
All right, man. God bless, guys.
You too, man.
Thanks, man.